Previously Sasuke had his back turned to him and was covered in extremely dark purple chakra. Ni-san. Naruto faintly heard a sullen voice in his mind. Present Naruto stood from afar and stared at Sasuke with wide eyes. He had never seen or felt Sasuke's chakra being riled up so much. What does he think he is doing? Naruto thought with a bit of worry. Kakashi, who was standing a few distances away on a tree branch from Naruto, was also surprised at this sudden display from Sasuke. He stood his ground patiently and kept his eyes on the two children. The chakra swirled around the young Uchiha boy for a few more seconds before it calmed down. Naruto took a single step ahead but stopped when he saw Sasuke turn his head towards him slightly, enough so that Naruto could see his right eye. A black iris with 3 red intersecting ellipses stared back at him. Naruto was utterly shocked on seeing this new design in his eyes. As far as he knew, Sasuke only had the 3 Tomo Sharingan. Cutting the supply of chakra to his eyes, Sasuke's eyes turned back to his normal black color. He turned around to face his longtime friend and stared at him expressionlessly. He turned his eyes towards the tree Kakashi was standing on for a mere second and then returned his gaze back to the blonde. "What are you doing here, Naruto?" Sasuke asked with a frown. Naruto startled by Sasuke's sudden question and wondered if what he had seen was right or not. "I thought I could come talk to you for a while, you know. It's been a while since we did that." Naruto finished a bit somberly. "Things have." Sasuke started as he gazed up at the cloudy sky. Changed Naruto. "You have your own goals and I have my own. We don't need to spend all of our time together anymore." Sasuke finished calmly. Naruto's eyes widened momentarily as he heard Sasuke's words. He may not say it outright, but he was hurt by his words. They rarely spent much together nowadays. Ever since the Uchiha massacre, he had seen his friend isolate himself from others. "I can help you, Sasuke. Like you promised to help me achieve my dream," Naruto said with a sad smile. "You wouldn't understand, Naruto," replied Sasuke irritatingly. "Then try explaining it to me, Sasuke," Naruto demanded frustratingly. "I have more important things to do rather than talk with you, Naruto. I must train by myself. So please, show yourself out of the compound," Sasuke replied firmly. Both the boys stared at each other intently for a few minutes but soon enough Naruto turned around and began to walk away from Sasuke. As Naruto walked away, Sasuke's face softened, looking at Naruto's back. "Forgive me, Naruto. I wish everything was as simple as it was earlier. But I can't clear my head nor rest until Itachi pays for what he has done. This burden is mine. And mine alone to bear," Sasuke thought as he clenched his fists tightly. His black eyes morphed into the fabled Mangekyo Sharingan as a few tears dropped from his eyes. He still remembered the day he acquired these eyes. The image of his mother and father lying dead on the ground was still stuck in his mind like a fresh memory. Deciding to train until dusk, Sasuke turned around and walked to the middle of the field. Kakashi was about to go after Naruto, when he was stopped by a hand on his shoulder. "I will go after him, Kakashi-sensei. It has been a while since I have spoken to him." Kakashi merely smiled, knowing well that the two were close to each other. Hokage's office Sarutobi Hiruzen sat in his chair with his elbows on the desk, eyes closed and chin rested on his hands. Jiraiya stood near the open window beside Hokage's desk as he saw his sensei going over all the information he had given him regarding Tsunade, Kirigakure and the 2 infamous traitors of Konohagakure no Sato, Orochimaru and Danzo Shimura. "So, you want me to aid the resistance group when they come to Konoha asking for help in their civil war?" Sarutobi questioned again. "That's right. Right now, Konoha does not have an alliance with any nation other than Wind Country and that too is exceedingly fragile. The resistance group is currently led by a woman named Mai Terumi. I have heard she is a reasonable woman and wishes to free the land of water from the Yonde Mizuki's reign and open the country to other nations for trade purposes. In 2 years or so, I am certain that she will travel to other nations requesting for help. With Konoha being the closest to Mizu no Kuni, our village is a viable option for them. Jiraiya stated. Sarutobi nodded his head. With Danzo leaving the village and taking a large portion of his own ANBU with him, the village could be prone to attack. Even though Danzo wished to rule the village based on his own vision, he had still helped in protecting their home during times of imminent danger. If Sarutobi's years of experience being Hokage and the 3 Shinobi World Wars taught him anything, he knew if the elemental nations followed the path it was taking right now, a major incident involving the 5 great nations could spark up another Shinobi war at any moment. Thus, having more allies during such times would be beneficial for Konoha's existence. Have you found anything further about the group called Akatsuki? Sarutobi asked gravely. I haven't been able to find their hideouts as of yet. I doubt they are somewhere in the Land of Lightning, due to the high number of Kumogakure shinobi patrolling the borders and the area within. Even the Land of Wind seems unlikely. Land of Earth and Land of Water seems plausible. That Tsuchikage has been known to make deals with Akatsuki to clear out some of the villages and not get his own hands dirty in the process. In Mizu no Kuni, most of the land is in chaos due to the civil war that's been going on in Kirigakure. Jiraiya explained, have you tried looking around any of the minor villages? Sarutobi asked. It's not that Jiraiya had not thought about them. It's just that the number of minor villages in the elemental nations are over a dozen. Also, considering that the group is going after the 9 Bijou, it would be more plausible for the Akatsuki to be somewhere within the 5 great nations, where it would much easier for members of the group to travel around. No, not yet. It is going to take some time to look around all the areas alone. Jiraiya replied after a while. If it was anyone else, Sarutobi would have been extremely skeptical of getting the job done. But he trusted Jiraiya and knew he could handle most of the problems that may come his way. For the time being, you should stay in Konoha and train Naruto-kun as much as you can. He must be prepared for when they come for him. We don't know anything about the group other than the fact that they are collecting the Bijus. It would be helpful for Naruto-kun to be prepared if he encounters any of the Akatsuki members alone. I will contact Kumogakure and Tsunade regarding this information soon and try to set a meeting with Kazekage to strengthen the alliance between Konohagakure and Tsunade. Sarutobi said. I was planning to anyway. The kid still has a lot to learn. He could probably take on a high-level jounin as he is now, but he hesitates to fight when he is facing opponents in numbers. He has more potential than Minato, which is surprising. I didn't really think I would get another student like Minato, let alone someone who could surpass him. But Naruto is his son. So, I suppose I shouldn't be that surprised. Jiraiya said fondly. Sarutobi smiled, listening to Jiraiya. It made him glad to see how much his student cared about Naruto and how highly he thought of the kid. There were times when the aged Hokage wished if he could have done the sealing of the Kyuubi and Sanbai instead of Minato. At least then Minato would have been here to see his son grow up. Well, get going now, Jiraiya. I got work to do. Sarutobi said as he sat upright on his chair. He internally cursed looking at all the paperwork that was in front of him. Jiraiya snickered a bit seeing his sensei's face. Bidding farewell to his sensei, Jiraiya jumped out of the window and made his way towards one of his favorite locations within the village, the bathhouses. Few hours later, on the Hokage mountain the evening rays of the sun casted an orange and reddish glow, portraying the village in an aesthetic view. On a small clearing on top of the Hokage monument, Naruto stood, panting heavily. For the past few hours, the blonde had been training himself and sparring with his Moku Bunshin to clear his head. He had become upset by Sasuke's behavior and was honestly starting to get a bit annoyed. Sasuke wasn't the only one with problems. He couldn't remember everything that happened to him when he was kidnapped, but he did recall certain facts. facts which shattered his illusion of reality. He had tried many times to remember the other parts, but it was futile. It felt like there was a barrier that prevented him from knowing. He may not know what exactly Sasuke was feeling, but he sincerely wanted to help and understand him, because in a way, they both were the same. Technically, they both were the last of their clan, the Uzumaki and Uchiha. They both were leaps beyond the children of their age group. They both were clan heirs of the two most influential clans in Konoha. They both have seen the darkness that resides in this shinobi world at a young age. Naruto blankly looked to his left at a distance at the Hokage's faces, specifically at the Yandame's face. He really did not know what to feel about that man. Standing straight again, Naruto clasped his hands together and whispered, "Moku Bunshin no Jutsu." Immediately, 7 Moku Bunshin formed around the blonde, each of them having considerable amount of chakra to last for a while. 3 of the Bunshin stood right in front of him, 2 to his left and 2 to his right. The 2 Moku Bunshin standing on either side of them ran at him with impeccable speeds, intent on putting their creator to the ground. As the Bunshin closed in on Naruto, the blonde took out 4 shuriken from his pouch, taking 2 in each of his hands. With precision, Naruto threw the shuriken at the 4 Bunshin that were just a few meters away from him. One of the Bunshin to his left used the one beside him as a shield and promptly jumped out of the way, causing the one used as shield to revert to wood and dissolve into the ground upon impact with the shuriken. While the 2 on the right side stepped the attack, making the shuriken just gaze past their bodies. Using the Bunshin's momentary distraction, Naruto took out his kunai and jumped towards the 3 Moku Bunshin in front who were already finishing hand seals for a Suetun jutsu. "Suetun, Mizurappa," yelled the 3 Bunshin together, shooting jets of water from their mouth towards Naruto who was approaching them speedily. Stopping briefly, Naruto formed the snake seal on his right hand and said, "Mokuton, Mokujihiki." Instantly wooden pillars formed all around Naruto and joined together, forming a dome-like structure around him. As soon as the jet of water impacted the wall, Naruto kept up his concentration and supplied ample amount of chakra into the jutsu to withstand the Suetun attack. A few seconds later, when Naruto was sure the Suetun attack had ended, he made the wooden pillars forming the dome start to retreat into the ground. Simultaneously, Naruto utilized the Doton, Moguragakur no Jutsu, to turn a small area of ground into fine sand so he could dig through it. Once the wooden dome fully retreated to the ground, the 6 Moku Bunshin still left standing find the original Naruto to be nowhere in sight. Keeping their guard up, they look around cautiously for any sneak attack. A few seconds later, Naruto emerged out of the ground behind one of the Bunshin with his left hand covered in chakra. The blonde planted a firm punch to the Bunshin's face, making him fly back and smash with another Bunshin, making both burst into pieces of wood. The remaining 4 Bunshin swiftly moved out of the way before anything could happen to them. Naruto then proceeded to settle into his taijutsu stance that had been taught to him by his mother at an early age. Keeping his left foot forward and his right foot slightly behind, Naruto crouched down just a bit to steady himself on the ground. His feet seemed staggered and placed slightly wider than the hips, which gave him a weight distribution of 50-50 on between both his feet. Both feet were angled a little to the outside and the knees were facing in the same direction. Having his knees and feet aligned in this position gave him the aptitude to minimize any leakage of force and provide a more stable base. His pelvis was positioned directly underneath his shoulders, which allowed him a stronger defense and assisted him in transferring the force to his extremities and improve his balance by keeping the spine in an optimal position. His right elbow and forearm stayed close to his body while his left arm was placed slightly in front, to act as the first line of defense and offense. He looked at his opponents as a bit of sweat rolled down his forehead. It had been a few hours since he was training. The 4 Moku Bunshin ran towards the blonde yet again with persistence. As soon as the first Bunshin reached Naruto with a right hook, the blonde feinted a punch to his jaw and instantly bent down to sweep the Bunshin off his leg, causing his opponent to fall to the ground. The blonde had no time to rest, as he saw the remaining 3 bunshin approaching him from 3 different directions. Swatting away a punch from his right, Naruto took hold of that bunshin and threw him towards the bunshin coming at him from front. Instantly ducking down, Naruto kneed the bunshin on his left and gave him a chakra-enhanced punch, causing him to shatter into pieces of woods right at that moment. Taking out 6 more kunai from his pouch, Naruto swiftly threw it towards the 3 downed bunshin rapidly. 2 kunai hit each of the bunshin directly in their vital spots, turning them into pieces of wood. Seeing as it was all over, Naruto tiredly sat down on the ground. Looking at the destroyed ground around himself, Naruto kept both his palms on the ground and transferred some of his chakra into the ground. The result was instantaneous, as the ground around him became abuzz with life energy, causing the shattered ground to repair itself, the trees and flowers to bloom and look fresh, as if nothing had happened over the area. Naruto sighed in relief and just laid his back on the ground. He stared at the setting sun for a few seconds and closed his eyes as he decided to take a little rest after exhausting himself for hours. It's been quite a while. Naruto. Said blonde boy sat upright the moment he heard that voice and found him standing a few meters away in front of him. A small smile crept up his face on seeing him. It had indeed been quite a while, almost 8 months as he remembered. Getting up from the ground, Naruto made his way forward and stopped before his friend. Sigh. Naruto whispered. He had missed him a lot. Flashback: Naruto sat tied to a chair with a cloth wrapped around his eyes. The room in which he sat was large and all he could smell around him was the stench of blood. The blonde felt sick just to be sitting here, but he couldn't move an inch due to the ninja wire that was tied around him tightly, nor could he use his chakra. His chakra was sealed off with the large number of chakra blocking seals, and he couldn't even talk to Kyubi or Sanbai. Tears freely rolled down his face as he was missing his Ka-chan and being at home. It had been almost a week since he had been taken by those ANBU to a location he did not know. He guessed it was probably a base of operations for the Root ANBU's leader outside of Konohagakure. He had met the man who controlled these ANBU called Root, Danzo Shimura, and the blonde despised him for his traitorous ideals regarding Konoha. The first few days he was kept locked in a room and was made to go through several different tortures, and it was during those sessions that the old war hawk talked about how he wished to make Konoha stand atop the other villages through any means possible, whether it be colliding with enemies or having to break down Konoha residents' minds to make them join him in his crusade. He tilted his head slightly up when he heard footsteps approaching him. My, Naruto-kun. You look so pale. I see that you have been well taken care of. Naruto heard a sickly sweet voice. He shuddered a little on hearing it but tried putting up a brave front. Who are you? Naruto stuttered in a low voice. The snake Sannin standing before the Senju heir smiled sickly and licked his lips upon seeing the trepidation in Naruto's voice. Oh, how he loved to experiment with test subjects who showed such promise and uncover the mysteries of chakra and ninjutsu, and Naruto right now was an enigma to him, especially his ability to use Mokuton. He knew Naruto wasn't a Senju by birth. He had the blood of a Namikaze and an Uzumaki in him. Even though Uzumaki clan were distantly related to the Senju clan, it was unheard for any Uzumaki to have the Mokuton Kekei Genkai, let alone a half-blooded Uzumaki. He was certain Minato did not belong to the Senju clan either, having collected and tested his blood samples a long time back. However, he knew the Shodai Hokage and Naruto had to be related somehow for both to possess the Mokuton Kekei Genkai naturally. Who I am is of no importance, young Naruto-kun. But you, on the other hand, are an extremely important subject. To be able to naturally use the Mokuton Kekei Genkai while not being a Senju by birth is certainly surprising. Orochimaru said as he eyed the blonde for his reaction. Naruto's mind came to a rough stop when he heard those words. His eyes widened behind those blindfolds as his entire body became still. Images of his childhood and his mother flashed through his mind. No, you're lying. She is my Ka-chan. Naruto whispered as he shook his head in denial. Oh, I wouldn't lie to you, Naruto-kun. I have known Tsunade a long time and she has never had a child of her own, replied Orochimaru as he brought forth a table which had a variety of medical equipment along with a vial that contained some sort of liquid. Naruto remained quiet and shut his eyes closed, not wanting to hear anything more from the man. You know, you should never trust anyone too much. Remember, even the devil was once an angel. Orochimaru thought out loud as he picked up one of the syringes and filled it up with the liquid that was in the vial. Shut up! Naruto screamed in anger but stopped abruptly when he felt something stab his thigh. He felt some sort of liquid enter his body and suddenly started to feel a lot weaker. I didn't ask you to scream now, did I, Naruto-kun? Orochimaru asked as he cleaned off the injection and put it back on the table. The snake Sannin ignored the whimpers that escaped the blonde's mouth and looked over all the equipment that was laid over the table. Senbon needles, kunai, heretic's fork, thumbscrew, amputation knives, tongs and several other medical devices that could be used to hold open the mouth. Turning back to the blonde, Orochimaru walked closer to Naruto, moved his hand over Naruto's face and smiled creepily. His only job was to break the kid mentally so he would have no shard of emotion left in him. Make him into a soldier who Danzo could use at his whim. Of course, he wasn't doing it out of generosity. If he wasn't given Shodai's cells for his own personal experimentation, he wouldn't be here right now. Orochimaru then removed all the chakra suppression seals from him except those that prevented him from contacting his bijou. The chakra-blocking seals were no longer required as the liquid he just gave Naruto would render him from making use of chakra anyway. Naruto felt a cold sensation run through him when he felt the man's finger touch his face. He sobbed but still tried to not outright scream in fear. Now, Naruto-kun. Let the fun begin. Orochimaru stated with a laugh. Naruto was about to say something, but ended up screaming in pain when more than 5 or 6 senbon needles were plunged in his body. H-h-h, groaned Naruto as Orochimaru pressed the needles deep into his skin. Wonderful, Naruto-kun. Truly wonderful. I have placed each of the needles in nociceptors, that should increase your perception of pain. Orochimaru said out loud as he stood right in front of Naruto. Taking 2 kunai, Orochimaru made 2 large slashes in the blonde's forearms, making him scream further. All. hhh.ple.ple.pleasest. Stop. Naruto said in between staggered breaths. The blood from his wounds dropped on the floor, making a puddle. Yes. Yes, Naruto-kun. Give me more, screamed the snake Sannin madly. Orochimaru then proceeded to stab the blonde in most of the vital points in his body with the 2 kunai. Just long enough to let the sensation of pain course through the blonde's entire body and then taking out the kunai. No. Please, please. Stop it. Naruto begged, but the snake Sannin heard none of it. By now, Naruto's once white shirt and blue pants had become red due to the copious amount of blood flowing out of his little body. Now, holding the thumbscrew in his hands, Orochimaru placed Naruto's fingers gently in between the metal surface and the flat end of the screw. The blonde had no strength to even pull his hands off and simply gave in to pain that was awaiting him. As Orochimaru tightened the screw, it lowered itself onto Naruto's fingers and began crushing them to point where the blonde's fingernails started to come off. Ha. Ah. No. Stop. Please. Just make it stop. Naruto breathed out painfully as his body shook uncontrollably. How fascinating. Naruto-kun. Orochimaru whispered sickly. He was honestly surprised to see that the blonde was still conscious, albeit barely. Do you want me to kill you, Naruto? Do you want me to free you from this wretched world, Naruto-kun? Orochimaru screamed madly. Please, kill me. Naruto said in between breath. His eyes were almost closed and he breathed heavily to take in oxygen into his body. Orochimaru was about to proceed to his next method when he heard the door to the room open. Seeing Danzo standing at the opening, he knew his time for today was over. "We'll see each other tomorrow again, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru whispered into Naruto's ears before leaving the room. Danzo scoffed, looking at the blonde's pathetic condition. He despised weak people and he would make sure that Naruto would turn out to be one of his best Root ANBU operatives. Looking to his right, Danzo motioned for the boy standing beside him to come closer. "Go clean this mess now. Make sure to clean every drop of blood," ordered the old war hawk. "Hi, Danzo-sama," said the boy, trying to sound as emotionless as possible. However, Danzo could make out the fear that was laced in his voice. "Get going," commanded Danzo. The boy hurriedly went inside the room with a bucket of water and a cloth as Danzo walked back to his office. As the boy reached near Naruto, his eyes roamed his still body. The only sign that showed that he was alive was the light movement of his chest. He dropped the bucket on the ground with a loud thud as he saw the amount of blood he had lost. Who's there?" Naruto whispered out fearfully upon hearing the sound. "I'm not going to hurt you," the boy said as gently as he could. He knew all the Root ANBU must be put through some sort of mental torture to make them feel ready, but this was extreme, even to him. Dipping the cloth in the water, he began to rub the blood-stained floor. Naruto didn't know why, but he felt like he could maybe trust this person, and judging from the voice, the boy was the same age as him. After a few minutes passed by, Naruto released a groan. The pain was not getting less, rather, it felt like it was increasing every passing minute. I'm Naruto," said the blonde in a low voice. The boy curiously looked the blonde for a few seconds before he replied. "I'm Sai." Flashback and Naruto put his hand forward which was held by Sai, and the two boys shook hands as a sign of greeting to each other. "Where have you been? It's been so long," Naruto said softly. "I was drafted to the ANBU after we were brought back to the village. I'm outside the village most of the time, due to the missions," Sai replied. Naruto chuckled lightly upon hearing Sai's voice. His voice still sounded somewhat emotionless. But he guessed it was probably due to him being taught to act that way since childhood. Sai's left eyebrow twitched on seeing the blonde laugh. He knew very well what he was laughing about and it annoyed him to no end. "I could leave, if all you're going to do is laugh." "Dickless," Sai said with a smirk. "Hey! I'm not dickless," Naruto said indignantly. "I can never be sure if you have a dick or not," Sai said frankly as he folded his arms over his chest. "Just shut up," Naruto yelled, embarrassed. Naruto stared at Sai annoyingly while Sai stared back at the blonde blankly and after a few minutes both started to laugh lightly. "I'm glad we met today. I missed you," Naruto said honestly. "I know. I will try visiting you more often from now," Sai said. The two sat down on the ground in comfortable silence and gazed over at the moon that was now visible in the evening sky. "Are you feeling okay, Naruto?" Sai asked hesitantly. "I don't want to talk about it now. Can we just sit quietly here?" Naruto asked. The two proceeded to sit quietly in the clearing on top of the mountain and talk amongst themselves about what they had done in the past few months for another half an hour before they both proceeded to go back. Naruto left to the Senju compound, while Sai returned to ANBU headquarters to meet up with Kakashi and give his report of what Naruto had done after he left the Uchiha compound. Meanwhile at the Uchiha compound Sasuke laid on the ground, taking deep breaths as he stared into the night sky. His 3-tomo Sharingan gazed over at the moon tiredly. Suddenly he stood upright with confused eyes staring at the moon. He could have sworn he saw the image of concentric rings in the moon with 9 tomos in it. He rubbed his eyes and stared into the sky again and saw nothing this time. "Must be my imagination," Sasuke thought. The past few hours. Sasuke had worked on his Katan nature and Raiton natured chakra along with some taijutsu katas and physical exercises. He had learned the basics of channeling Raiton chakra through his kunai a while back when Itachi was still here, as well as a few jutsu for Katan nature. Getting up from the ground, Sasuke began to walk back into the house, when he suddenly threw his kunai towards a tree. Looking towards the tree, he found no one to be there. "Who's there?" Sasuke asked out loud. He was sure he had felt a strange presence just a second ago. He remembered feeling this same presence a few years ago too. "So, it was you. Who inherited mother's prowess?" "Young Sasuke-kun." Sasuke looked around himself to look for someone who said those words, but couldn't find anyone. The wind rustled in the area, making the tree branches waver lightly. "Who's there? Come out now," Sasuke demanded. Taking out another kunai, he threw them towards the tree to his right speedily. "I'm so glad that you sensed my presence," Sasuke heard again. A few seconds later, Sasuke's eyes widened when he saw a completely black humanoid figure rise out of the branch of that tree. The figure lacked any noticeable hair or visible orifices and seemed to be made completely of that black mass. "What do you want? Why do you keep following me?" Sasuke asked as he glared at the black figure with his Sharingan. "You will grow strong. You have the desire and talent for Ninshu. However, you're still not aware of your true power," said the black figure seriously. "Ninshu? My true power?" Sasuke questioned again. He was beginning to get irritated now. "An even greater power lies dormant inside of you, young Sasuke-kun. But there is one condition to awaken that power." Sasuke listened closely to the black figure, somehow wanting to know if there is indeed a greater power that lies inside of him. "You still didn't tell me who you are, and how would you know that?" Sasuke asked again. "It doesn't matter," replied the black figure. "If you awaken your power, my wish will come true one day," the black figure said as he gazed at the moon. Memories of the moment when he saw his mother being sealed several millennia ago came to his mind. "Never mind that. We were talking about awakening your power. Would you like to know how?" asked the black figure. "It has nothing to do with training, you know," the black figure said, and saw how intrigued Sasuke looked right now. "You must lose love. Like losing a person you love." Sasuke's eyes widened upon hearing that. For some reason images of Naruto came into his mind when he thought of the only person he cared about right now and realized what the creature was talking about. "Shut up!" Sasuke screamed. The black figure smiled wickedly on seeing Sasuke's reaction. He was sure in the future that his plans would come to fruition. "We'll be seeing each other soon, young Sasuke-kun," said the black figure as he receded into the ground and disappeared. Sasuke stood still in the field for a few more minutes as he took deep breath to calm his mind. Glancing one last time at the spot where the black figure was standing, Sasuke walked back into the house. 6 months later, Naruto idly walked back from the academy to his home. Not much had happened in the village in the last 6 months. Sasuke and he rarely talked to each other ever since that day. Naruto had stopped bothering him to spend time together. He realized it was pointless to force him to change his mind about something. He hoped it would have been different, but he had understood people don't get everything they desire. Despite all that, Naruto was somewhat proud that he was advancing in his Fuinjutsu studies. He was a level 8 seal master now, and according to Jiraiya, he was extremely gifted in the field. Given a couple of years of time, Naruto was sure he could become a level 10 seal master and learn the jutsu which made the Yondaime Hokage famous in the elemental nations. Even though he was unsure about his feelings regarding the Yondaime Hokage, whom he knew to be his father, he still idealized the man to be the greatest Hokage and yearned to be like him. But his greatest achievement so far was his advancement in medical ninjutsu. His mother and Shizun had started teaching him ever since he came back, and he would get pains in his arm. It was relaxing to him personally, and it brought him immense happiness at the idea of treating other people. As he neared the Senju compound, Naruto remembered that his birthday was coming up in about a week. He was going to ask his Ka-chan, Jiraiya Aji-chan and Sandaime Jiji about his birth parents at that time. He still loved Tsunade dearly, because to him, she is the only mother figure he has ever known and shown him unconditional love. But he still wished to know about his father and his birth mother. The only thing he knew about Yondaime was his tales as Hokage, and he had never heard about his birth mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Reaching his house, Naruto entered through the main gate and then walked towards the main door. Removing his shoes outside the door, Naruto walked inside. "I'm home, Ka-chan," Naruto yelled loudly. Even though he knew his mother was in the next room, in the hall, he always did that. A habit he had acquired since his childhood days. "How many times have I told you not to shout, Naru-chan?" Tsunade said as she walked over to Naruto. She gave him a mock glare but had to let go of that when she saw him pout. "Now, come on, get changed and come down. Jiraiya will be coming soon. He needs to talk to you about something," Tsunade said. Hi, Ka-chan," Naruto replied as he ran past his mother upstairs to his room. "What am I going to do with him?" Tsunade giggled a little as she too went back to looking over the paperwork from the hospital. About half an hour later, Naruto came downstairs. Wearing his gray t-shirt along with black pants. As he entered the hall, he saw his mother sitting at the table going over some paperwork. Shizun was busy in her shift at hospital, which was normally from morning 7 to 4 in the evening. He saw Jiraiya sitting on the chair beside his mother and looking out the window towards the gardens. He briefly wondered what it was his Aji-chan wished to talk about, and a lot of different scenarios came to his mind, which made him extremely excited. "Jiraiya Aji-chan, what did you want to talk about?" Naruto asked as he walked towards the Toad Sannin. "Is it going to be a new jutsu? A katana or chikudo? Or a new Fuinjutsu book perhaps?" Naruto eagerly asked his questions. Jiraiya laughed slightly on seeing the eagerness on Naruto's face. A sense of nostalgia passed in his mind as it reminded him of the time he used to train Minato, who also used to act childish at times. "Yeah, I did promise to teach you one of the Yondaime's prized jutsu, remember?" Jiraiya stated. Naruto's eyes slightly widened on hearing that. "Really, Aji-chan?" Naruto asked again, just to make sure. Now Naru-chan. Listen first and then react, okay?" Tsunade said as she ruffled his hair playfully. But she couldn't blame him for being excited. She knew how much her son idolized Minato and his strength as the Yondaime Hokage. "Yes. Now, I will be leaving the village this evening for some work and I will be gone for a few days. So, I have written down all the steps and materials required to learn the jutsu in this scroll," Jiraiya said as he handed Naruto a blue scroll with the kanji for Rasengan on it. Taking the scroll in his hands, Naruto hugged his godfather tightly to express his emotion. Opening the scroll, Naruto quickly went through the contents of the scroll and was amazed at the versatility of the jutsu. "I'm going to master it in less than a week," Naruto proclaimed. Jiraiya simply stared at the blonde for a few seconds before he burst out laughing. "Kid, it took the Yondaime 3 years to create and master the jutsu. Don't get too confident. It's not as easy as it looks. Even for me, it took more than a few months," Jiraiya said smugly. While Jiraiya was unsure of Naruto's proclamation, Tsunade had a feeling that this was a bet Jiraiya wasn't going to win. "Just you wait and see, next time you come back, I will have already mastered the jutsu," Naruto said with determination. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade were slightly taken aback hearing the determination in his voice. Motioning for the blonde to come closer to him, Jiraiya kept his hand on Naruto's long blonde hair and looked him in the eyes for a good 1 minute. "I trust in you, Naruto. If there's anyone who can surpass the Yondaime Hokage or any of the other Hokages in the past, it's you. Jiraiya said softly. An orange-haired man with a pair of strange silver eyes stood atop the tallest building in the highly industrialized but small village that is Amigakure no Sato. The building had 4 humanoid faces at each side and is connected to 2 smaller towers. He seemed to be standing still and kept his eyes glued to the cloudy sky despite the rain that fell most of the time. While one side of the village looked habitable due to the number of concentrated buildings in that area, the other parts of the village were in shambles. Most of the buildings were destroyed due to the past shinobi wars that took place in this village. Because of Amigakure's location between 3 of the 5 great shinobi nations, it has frequently served as a battlefield during the previous shinobi wars. Due to this, most of the population of this village are war refugees. Amigakure has adopted a heavy isolationist policy because of this, leading to the village's defenses to be abnormally impenetrable. For several years, the village was led by Sanshuo no Hanzo, Hanzo of the Salamander, a notoriously powerful shinobi. Despite his power, Hanzo was deeply paranoid and rarely appeared in public for fear of being assassinated. However, his reign came to an end after the Third Shinobi World War, when a group called Akatsuki began advocating for peace. At some point after the end of the war, a civil war broke out in the village to remove Hanzo from power. Akatsuki and the rebel factions, which was led by an individual known only as Pain, symbolized their rejection of Hanzo by placing a horizontal slash across their forehead protector. With Pain's near-godlike powers, Hanzo and his forces were overthrown, with Pain being the one to personally kill Hanzo. Pain then went on to kill anyone even remotely connected to Hanzo, from close family to distant acquaintances, so that none would ever emerge to take revenge. Thus, Pain became the new leader of Amigakure no Sato, who came to be revered as a god by the populace because of his power and contributions during the Civil War. However, none ever saw Pain directly. His decrees instead, were communicated to Amigakure's citizen by his angel, who came to be revered almost as highly as Pain himself. The only thing Amigakure's citizens could conclusively say about Pain was that he stopped the perpetual rain every Sunday and whenever he had to leave the village. The rain that fell in the village is a perception ninjutsu, allowing Pain to freely manipulate the rain infused with his own chakra. During this technique, the falling raindrops are closely linked to Pain's senses. When the rain is obstructed by a chakra belonging to someone not of the village, the existence of the intruder could be detected. Since Pain uses Amigakure as his base of operations for his work with Akatsuki, knowledge of the happenings inside the village never reaches the other shinobi villages. Even knowledge of Amigakure's civil war was not common throughout the elemental nations, and news of Pain's victory was completely unknown to the point that other villages believed Hanzo to still be in charge. Pain-sama. The orange-haired man turned around and looked blankly at the tall woman with straight blue hair, amber-colored eyes along with lavender eye shadow and elaborate piercing. "What is it, Conan?" Pain asked flatly. "Itachi and Hirako have returned from the borders of Kaminari no Kuni. Sasori and Kakazu too have come back from Kaze no Kuni. They are awaiting further orders in the chambers. Both teams have gotten a detailed layout of the area surrounding the village, as well as the locations of the Ichibi, Nibi and Hachibi Jinchuriki. However, the security in Kumogakure no Sato is highly firm. Getting the Nibi and Hachibi without direct confrontation with Kumo won't be possible," said the angel of Amigakure no Sato emotionlessly. "It was never my intention to leave the villages unscathed. The 5 great shinobi villages have lived long enough without facing the consequences of their actions in the past. They shall know and understand pain soon, when God himself forces his judgment on them. Go and wait with the others, Conan. I will be there shortly." Pain replied calmly as he turned away from the Angel of Aim. As usual, Conan accepted the orders given to her and went inside the tower to wait with rest of the members of Akatsuki. After a few minutes of quietly observing the rainy sky, Pain made his way to the chamber inside the tower where the members waited. As Pain stepped into the chamber where all the current members of Akatsuki were standing, Conan walked and stood beside him. Conan was among the original founders of the Akatsuki and thus had more say in the group compared to the other members. While Pain and Conan stood on one side of the room, all the other members stood before them with the same emotionless mask on their face. They all once belonged to a village and served them loyally. However, the circumstances they all went through forced them to become Rouge and eventually join this group by the leader of Akatsuki. All the members of the group wore long, black cloaks with red clouds, a red interior and chin-high collar. The red clouds represented the rain of blood that fell in Amigakure during its wars and were viewed as a symbol of justice. The robes are very distinctive, allowing members of Akatsuki to be identified even from a distance. We still need more members and funds to carry out the mission that we will be focusing on in a few years' time. Until that time, keep hunting more missing ninja and collect their bounties to increase our funds. I will be out of Amigakure for a few weeks, so there's no need to return here until you're contacted. Pain stated firmly. "Hi, Leader Sama," responded the other members. Before Pain left the room, he glanced towards Conan, giving her a silent message, which she understood clearly. "Itachi, Pain-sama wishes to speak to you regarding the Kyubi in Sanbai Jinchuriki," Conan said to the ex-Konoha ninja. Itachi, who had his eyes closed all this time, opened them to reveal his red eyes upon hearing the subject and merely nodded as his eyes returned to his normal black color. While the other members of the group made their way outside the tower from the left, Itachi and Conan walked out the room from the right to make their way to Pain. Next day, early morning in Konohagakure no Sato Hinata Hyuga, the heiress of the prestigious Hyuga clan, was walking to the academy along with her two bodyguards Ko and Usagi. Ko was a man of average height and build with short brown hair and backward spikes. Like most Hyuga, he had white pupilless eyes along with having a broad and well-defined nose. He wore the standard Konoha uniform inclusive of a flak jacket and forehead protector that he wears like a bandana. Casually, Ko wears the Hyuga clan's signature black kimono. Usagi had medium-length dark-colored brown hair that she often kept tied up in an unkempt high ponytail with bangs parted down the middle. She too had the all-seeing white eyes of the Hyuga clan and creamy white skin. She carried a tanto on her back signifying that she was skilled user in the arts of kenjutsu. The two bodyguards were from the branch family and were among the two most skilled shinobi of the Hyuga clan. Ever since the Kumogakure incident that took place 5 years ago, Hinata had been given an extra guard to keep a lookout for immediate danger. After all, nothing is supposed to deceive the great white eyes of the clan. Hinata had grown immensely in the shinobi arts in the last 5 years. She was by no means a master in the Juken Taijutsu art, that only members of the Hyuga clan can perform. But with her two sans and her cousin Niji's help, she had significantly improved her stance and fluidity in the movements. However, she knew that despite her improvements, she wasn't strong enough to protect others or herself in a situation that demanded courage. She had always been the sensitive one in the family. Instead of most of the Hyuga members who had an air of firmness around them, Hinata had always been soft and gentle. And it was because of her kind and gentle nature that she could never bring out the rigidity that was essential in Juken when striking an opponent. Seeing the slightly absent look on Hinata's face, Usagi tapped Hinata on her left shoulder gently. "What's wrong, Hinata-sama?" she asked kindly. She had seen how Hinata was treated unfairly by many of the main family members due to her soft nature. She never supported such behavior towards a child, but a branch member never had much say in the affairs of the main family. I don't think I can be a strong shinobi as everyone expects me to become in the family, Usagi-san." Hinata stuttered a little. After spending a bit of time with the blonde now and then ever since she got to know him, her stuttering had become almost non-existent, but she still did that from time to time when she felt nervous or down about something. "You are still young, Hinata-sama. You have a long road ahead of you. There is no need for you to be thinking of such things yet. I am sure that when the time comes, everyone will recognize you as someone they can depend on. Usagi replied gently. She understood the girl's dilemma. Kunoichi were often seen as weak compared to the men, and with Hinata's past, it was understandable why she had such thoughts in her mind. You could train with Naruto-sama more often. Ko interjected as he heard the conversation between the two. He, by no means, liked the Kyuubi Jinchuriki much, but he couldn't refute the fact that he had a positive influence on Hinata. Ko had lost several of his brothers and sisters during the Kyuubi attack 10 years ago and thus held a grudge against Senju. Hinata lowered her head, on hearing that. During the past year, she hadn't spent much time with Naruto due to him always being busy with his training. Ever since he returned to the village after that horrific night, she had noticed a change in him. He was more silent and spaced out a lot during conversations. She knew he tried to cover up his sadness with that happy smile of his, but she had learned to look past that layer. It hurt her a bit to see him not share his sadness with her, but she also understood that he needed his own space to cope up with everything that had happened to him. Yet, she still wished that she could do something more him. He has always been there to protect her, to rescue her whenever she was in danger, like a knight to save the princess. Usagi mildly glared at Ko for that remark. They both knew Naruto and Hinata were close friends, and it had hurt Hinata to see the blonde away most of the time. A few minutes later, all three of them reached the Konoha Academy. Hinata halted in her step when she saw Naruto standing near the academy doors and talking to his sister, Shizune. She steeled her resolve momentarily and decided that she would go to the Senju compound in the evening to spend some time with her favorite blonde, whether he liked it or not. Bidding goodbye to Ko and Usagi, Hinata walked towards into the academy. Mount Miyaboku, home of the toads Jiraiya, impatiently waited in front of the great toad sage, along with Fukasaku and Shima. He was casually sitting on a tree in a neighboring town of Konoha, looking at the wonderful specimens of women at the bathhouse for his next novel when he was abruptly summoned by Fukasaku, stating that the great toad sage wished to speak with him. He would have had no qualms with that if he wasn't waiting for the old toad to wake up from his nap. Jiraiya, Fukasaku and Shima had been standing in front of the old toad for over an hour, simply waiting for the old geezer to wake up. This is really testing my patience. Someone wake him. Jiraiya yelled with displeasure. He was a busy man and had a lot of important work to do, like attaining information for his next novel. Just calm down, will you, Jiraiya boy? We all are waiting. Fukasaku said with a sigh. Meanwhile, the great toad sage snored deeply while sitting on the large seat which had the kanji for sage written on it. Shima scowled a bit at that and jumped on top of the great toad sage and promptly hit him on the face with her stick. Wake up, you damn old geezer! Shima yelled indignantly. This caused several different reactions from the occupants of the room. Fukasaku, while wide-eyed at his wife's actions outwardly, on the inside, he expected that reaction from her, considering she had an impatient personality. Jiraiya finally sighed in relief when he saw the old toad sage's eyes open instantly upon being smacked on the face. The great toad sage looked around the room upon being woken up from his sleep rather lazily but stopped when his gaze landed on the toad Sannin. Ah! Jiraiya! You're here. What took you so long? Asked the old toad. Jiraiya developed a tick mark on hearing that and almost felt like giving the old toad a piece of his mind, but he held his tongue. What did you wish to discuss, great Lord Elder? Jiraiya asked politely. Despite being rather uncharacteristic at times, the great toad sage was a being of great knowledge and an exceptional user of senjutsu who had lived for thousands of years. It's about, started the Omega Sennin, great toad sage, but closed his eyes and fell asleep almost instantly. Jiraiya and Fukasaku sweat dropped at the rather strange behavior of one so wise while Shima was about to smack him again. But before she could, the old toad woke up again suddenly. It's about the child of prophecy, he said with a deep voice. Jiraiya's face became serious upon hearing that. Even though he fooled around most of the time and gave off the impression of an odd man, everyone came to respect the battle-hardened shinobi when he became serious. In 1 year, it will be time for the child of prophecy to become one with nature. You, who has become a sage, shall teach the boy about the chakra that flows in the world and be the one to guide him along the right path. Said the Omega Sennin wisely. One of the great toad sage's ability is to glance into the future, but to a limited extent. Jiraiya, Fukasaku and even Shima were slightly surprised at what they heard. Senjutsu required one to have extreme patience and was a very difficult art to learn. Jiraiya himself had not been able to become a true sennin and required Fukasaku and Shima to assist him in maintaining the sage mode. Even Minato, who mastered the arts of senjutsu and become a true sage, which was noted by the orange pigmentation around the eyes, took time to enter the enhanced state and couldn't maintain it for long. Due to Minato's style of fighting, which revolved around speed and fast reflexes, he did not normally use the enhanced state. Jiraiya had thought about teaching Naruto senjutsu, but he didn't think the blonde would be ready for another few years. Are you sure, Great Lord Elder? He would still be far too young to be delving into such intricacies. Jiraiya said doubtfully, with Fukasaku and Shima having the same thoughts in their mind. He will be facing a great enemy in the future. He will need to be as prepared as soon as he can. Even apart from that, the boy was born to be one with nature. His skill with nature chakra will be unparalleled in the times to come. Said the great toad sage nostalgically. He still remembered the first time he had brought his friend to the land of toads and was surprised that a human could feel the nature chakra flowing in the world without any prior training. He was certain the boy would attain skills in senjutsu that would one day rival his old friends. Hi, Great Lord Elder. I will start training him in senjutsu when the time comes. Jiraiya replied with a polite bow. He was surprised as to how much faith the Omega Sennin had in Naruto. He wondered, was it faith? Or did the old toad really know something about the past that made him come to such conclusions? Fukasaku, Shima and Jiraiya soon left the chambers as the great toad sage went back to sleep once more. Jiraiya, along with his 2 masters who helped him in learning senjutsu, were now standing near a special portal that linked Mount Myaboku to Konohagakure no Sato. This was known as the distant body water or Enshinsui. The portal allowed the smaller toads to quickly travel between 2 places without the use of the summoning technique. Combined with a toad that can perform the summoning jutsu, the toads can be summoned to aid Konoha in the event a living toad summoner isn't in Konoha at the time, summon people to Mount Myaboku from Konoha or send them back to said village. I will speak to the Gaki about senjutsu training and have him sign the toad contract soon then. I will bring him here once he signs the contract, Fukasaku-sensei, Shima-sensei. Jiraiya said. Yes, Jiraiya boy. It's been a while since I have seen Minato boy's son. Fukasaku replied as he remembered last seeing Naruto the day he was born. Jiraiya stepped into the portal and Fukasaku performed the necessary hand seals, and a couple seconds later, Jiraiya disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Now, help me find some good food. We need to prepare for Naruto-chan's arrival. Shima said, and Fukasaku sighed on hearing that. His wife always went on rambling about that she had to make food and complained how he didn't help her enough. Straightening his aging back, he followed his wife to the garden. Why is it that the males always had to listen to the females, no matter what? Konoha Academy. It was around 11:30 in the morning and Irika was standing beside the podium, flipping through the pages of his book to look for the topic to discuss in the last 30 minutes of today's last class. He could hear the students bicker endlessly in the background, and it annoyed him that none of them paid any heed to him standing before them. He closed his book with a loud thud and cleared his throat by using chakra to amplify his voice. He was satisfied that most of the students who were talking earlier were now paying attention to him. Keeping his book on the podium, he walked to middle of the class and looked around the classroom with a smile. Almost every one of the students had improved in one way or another in the past 2 years. Be it weapons throwing, taijutsu, using chakra or even the history of the shinobi world, which was rather an important part for any shinobi to know. He frowned internally when he looked at a few girls who came to academy only to daydream about a couple of boys and a few boys who were mainly jealous that most girls paid attention to the select group of boys and did not take their shinobi training much seriously. Yet, he had hoped that once they became shinobi, the reality of the situation would force them to change their mindset. After all, that was what a teacher should do, believe in all the students, despite their progress rate. Getting out of his thoughts, he looked at the students again, already having decided what to discuss about today. We completed 2 years of academy a couple of weeks ago and everyone has learned something useful that will help them advance themselves in their shinobi career. So, by now everyone should have an idea of what they want to achieve in the future. Today, we are going to discuss about your dreams for the future. Irika said. Many of the students, mostly from civilian backgrounds, looked amongst themselves with slightly confused expressions on their faces. The civilian students who come to the academy to become shinobi are normally made to believe that they would have a lavish lifestyle once they became a shinobi of the village and would get paid a lot of money, which in turn would help their family. Hence, they never really thought about what they themselves want to do. Naruto, who was sitting in the last bench, had a thoughtful look on his face on hearing the topic for discussion. Before joining the academy, he wished to become Hokage so that he could gain the village's appreciation and become accepted as part of the village. He wished to protect his village, because he could sense how much Konoha meant to all the people. Back then, he didn't know why people hated him, but now that he knew the reason, he understood that it wasn't him they hated, rather the beings of chakra sealed inside of him. However, after going through everything he went through in the last 2 years, he had gained several doubts in his mind. He often found himself wondering if people would accept him as the Hokage if he ever became one. If people would ever respect him, if they would ever see him as one of their own. Despite his wariness, he still wished to protect Konoha. He wished to protect the place where he was born. He wished to protect the place his parents were born and the place his great-grandfather fought his entire life to create. Glancing towards Hinata, who was sitting beside him, he was amazed at how hard she was pondering over the matter with her eyes closed. He had noticed she was awfully quiet today. It made him wonder if she was okay. She was one of the closest people in his life and he never wanted to see her upset. Irika started off from the right row, where most the civilian students sat and found the answers to be somewhat uninteresting. While most of the boys wanted to become great shinobi so they could live a better lifestyle or get a good girl, most of the girls wanted to marry either Sasuke Uchiha or Naruto Senju. Turning his head towards the Nara heir, he wasn't surprised to find him almost dozing off. Choji, who was munching on his potato chips which he always brought to class, saw Irika's mildly intense stare at his friend. Shika, Irika-sensei's looking at you. Choji said in a hushed voice as he nudged the lazy Nara a little. Shikamaru, finally having noticed his sensei giving him the look, willed himself to stand up despite every cell in his body telling him to lie down and just rest. I don't want much in life, Irika-sensei. I just want to get promoted to a chunin, meet someone nice and settle down. Anything more is too much of a drag. Shikamaru said with yet another yawn. Those who knew the Nara well, snickered, already having expected something akin to that response. Even Irika's sweat dropped and briefly wondered if the boy found anything in life to not be a drag. However, he was aware that underneath Shikamaru's lazy attitude, lay a mind of a great tactician who would one day help Konoha win great victories. If only he knew. When Choji's and Shino's turn came, none were surprised to hear that both wanted to become the type of shinobi who brought pride and honor to their clan's name. Even though Choji was not among the best students in the class, Irika admired the plump boy's admiration and his dedication towards his friends. He knew he would go on to become a shinobi on whom others could rely on without a shadow of doubt. Being from the Aburame clan, many students found Shino to be strange because of him housing bugs inside his body and thus avoided him on occasions. Initially Irika was slightly worried about the bug user, but later, when he saw Naruto interacting with Shino and involving him with his friends, it eased his mind to know that Naruto understood Shino. "Irika-sensei. When's my turn going to come?" asked Kiba smugly. He had always been the impatient one among the group of children. Not even a second later, the young Inuzuka was smacked on the head by Sakura and Ino, who were sitting on either side of him on a bench just behind the supposed last loyal Uchiha. "Wait for your turn, Kiba. If anyone, Sasuke-kun's turn should come next," yelled Sakura. Everyone in the class was surprised when Ino did not join Sakura in her usual rambling about her precious Sasuke. Once again Irika sighed, seeing that behavior. Even though he had spoken to Sakura on several occasions about her fangirl attitude, she hadn't changed one bit. Although, he was glad that he could see a bit of calmness in Ino's behavior. Turning his gaze at the young Inuzuka, the scar-faced Chunin chuckled lightly on seeing the boy's enthusiasm. While most students had changed in one way or another, Kiba's cheerful and overconfident attitude had yet to take a positive or negative peak on the graph. "All right. Tell us about your dream, Kiba," Irika asked calmly. After rubbing his sore head for several minutes, which earned a laugh from several students and a bark from Akamaru, Kiba stood up on his place and confidently pointed his thumb at himself. "I want to become the greatest hunter ninja the Elemental Nations has ever seen. And once I accomplish that, maybe I will even try for the Hokage position," Kiba said with a big cocky smile which showed his pronounced canine teeth to everyone. The entire class, including Irika, became silent for a moment, but a few seconds later majority of the class burst out into laughter over the Inuzuka's proclamation. Kiba hung his head low with a comical look on his face on seeing the reaction he got, but smirked at everyone nonetheless. He wouldn't give up just because some people thought it was impossible. Naruto had to admit, Kiba had courage and was brave enough not to get down easily. But even Naruto knew that for Kiba to make his statement a reality with his current mindset, a miracle would have to take place. Soon enough, Irika calmed the class down and turned towards the pinkette and the platinum blonde-haired girl. "How about you, Sakura? Ino? What are your dreams for the future?" Irika asked eagerly. Despite Sakura showing behavior considered to be uncharacteristic of an aspiring shinobi along with Ino at times, he always saw something in those girls. While Sakura had exemplary chakra control as per what he had seen, Ino had the will to continue forging ahead and help her friends along the way. Right now, both girls may be immature and inexperienced, but when they do grow up, he believed they would be among the top kunoichi Konohagakure no Sato would produce. Sakura felt a bit nervous when she saw that everyone in the class was staring at her awaiting her response. She looked at Sasuke from the corner of her eyes and became a little upset when she found him to be simply staring out of the window beside his seat. However, she scrunched up enough will to speak her mind. I really like Sasuke-kun and wish to be with him someday," Sakura said shyly in a low voice. While Irika only saw a young girl's childish desire, Naruto could feel the sincerity in her voice. He kept quiet though. Ino, however, lowered her head a bit and stared at the ground. Even her father had spoken to her about how she never took being a kunoichi seriously and would never manage to amount to anything if she continued to go on the way she was going. It had hurt her a little at that point, but a few weeks later, she realized her mistake when she was sorely defeated in the weekly taijutsu spar between students. "I want to become a strong kunoichi, Irika-sensei. I want to show everyone that even kunoichi can be as strong as boys," Ino said with a faint conviction present in her voice. Irika was slightly startled by that answer, but smiled nonetheless. "Looks like she's growing," Irika thought. Before he could move on to Hinata, Naruto, and Sasuke however, the bell rang, letting everyone know that the academy was over for today. "Alright class, we'll continue this some other class. Class is dismissed for today," Irika stated, and immediately all the students started swarming out of the classroom. As Naruto walked down the stairs along with Hinata, he saw Sasuke pick his backpack and walk out the room without giving a single glance. He sighed, seeing his best friend's demeanor. It had been like that ever since the day Naruto saw the strange design in Sasuke's Sharingan. During the academy, both knew that the other was close by, but both acted as if they didn't notice the other. He didn't know what it was, but he could sense that his friend's chakra felt a lot colder than earlier. It felt dark. He understood that Sasuke had a deep hatred inside of him due to Itachi's actions. But even after everything he had heard about Itachi from everyone else, he couldn't come to believe that the kind boy he once knew would slaughter his entire clan just to measure his strength. As Naruto and Hinata quietly made their way outside the academy, Naruto was mildly surprised to see his Gigi waiting there for him instead of Shizune-chan or his Ka-chan. There were times when he walked home alone too, depending on whether his Ne-chan or Ka-chan were busy or not. Before he walked up to him however, Naruto stopped and turned towards Hinata. "Hinata-chan, is something wrong? You have been really quiet today." Naruto asked, unsure. Hinata poked her index fingers somewhat nervously about being questioned so suddenly. She had just planned to go see Naruto in the Senju compound in the early evening when she knew he mostly trained but hadn't planned on being questioned like that. Thus, her nervousness. Usagi, who was waiting to accompany Hinata back to the Hyuga compound, giggled a little on seeing Hinata's nervousness because she just knew why the Hyuga heiress acted that way around the blonde. It also made her smile, seeing how innocent their relationship was. None of them knew just how special they were to each other, and that is what made it even more exciting in Usagi's opinion. They had countless number of possibilities before themselves which they could choose to give birth to a more intricate relationship between themselves. "It's nothing, Naruto-kun. I will see you later," Hinata said in a rushed manner before she ran to Usagi upon seeing her. Holding the elder Hyuga's hand, both Hinata and Usagi started to make their way towards their home. Meanwhile, Naruto merely stood there for a few more seconds as he watched her run. Ever since he came back to the village, Naruto knew he hadn't spent that much time with many of his friends, especially her. He just wished that he could get his mind straight. Turning around, he too walked towards the person who was waiting for him. "Gigi. What brings you here?" Naruto asked with a goofy smile. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was like a grandfather to Naruto, was one of the special people with whom he shared his smile more often. "Can't an old man come visit his grandson, Naruto-kun?" Sarutobi asked with a chuckle. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and had a sheepish smile on his face upon hearing that. The two soon walked out of the academy grounds and made their way towards the Senju compound. Naruto was just glad that the Sandaime made some time for him occasionally. With being the Hokage, he wondered how much responsibility he had to carry on his shoulders. He subtly glanced towards the Hokage monument, the Shodai, the Nidaime, the Sandaime and the Yandaime. Each one of them dedicated their souls for Konoha and carried the burden on their shoulders. Evening, Senju compound. Naruto sat beneath a tree in the gardens of the Senju compound with a look of pure concentration along with mild irritation on his face. It had been a couple of hours since he came outside and began learning how to create a Rasengan. Upon opening the blue scroll which was given to him by Jiraiya, he found a brief theory on the jutsu, step-by-step instructions on how to perform it, along with another containment seal at the bottom. Inside the containment seal, Naruto found several balloons filled with water as well as hard rubber balls. The theory behind the Rasengan was something which Naruto understood after reading it a couple of times. The Rasengan, which was created by the Yandaime Hokage, was fundamentally based on a Bijuu's ultimate attack, Bijudama, which surprised him greatly. It's primarily a spinning ball of chakra that is formed and held in the palm of the user's hand. The Rasengan requires one to have precise chakra control, and the jutsu is said to be the highest form of shape transformation. Among the main advantages of the Rasengan is that it does not require any hand seals to perform, and the destructive power behind the jutsu can be altered as per the user's will. Once it is formed, it also does not require any additional chakra to sustain it, which means there is no definite limit to how long the Rasengan can be used. Though the Rasengan's shape is consistent from user to user, its size varies from barely large enough to be noticeable to much larger than the user's hand. With greater experience on performing the Rasengan, comes a larger size. What irritated Naruto were the vague instructions written on how to perform the technique. Step 1. Burst the water balloon completely with chakra alone. Step 2. Now. As performed in Step 1, burst the rubber ball completely with chakra alone. Step 3. Combine what you have learned in Step 1 and Step 2, and apply it to the third step. Keep the intended shape of the balloon. If it is popped or otherwise moves, you haven't mastered the Rasengan. He was certain that Jiraiya had done this on purpose, so that he could figure out the jutsu on his own. So here he was, trying to burst the water balloon with his chakra alone for the past 2 hours. He was happy that Jiraiya thought he could figure the jutsu out, but at the same time, it was somewhat annoying. The damn balloon only popped in 4 or 5 places. It never burst out completely. Sighing tiredly, he threw yet another balloon away from him harshly, which burst upon contacting the ground. Looking up at the sky, he could see the reddish sun of the evening sky as well as the faint glow of the moon. It reminded him of Sasuke and himself for some reason. While the Sanskrit name for sun can be translated as steadiness, firmness and strength of purpose. The moon is said to be fickle and changeable. The sun rises day after day, regardless of weather conditions, the behavior of humanity or the placement of the planets in the sky. It traverses its set path, always giving light and heat and asking nothing for itself in return. The moon is said to rule the senses and emotions. Emotions change and fluctuate as our thoughts and attitudes change. In short, the moon looks outward from itself and finds inspiration and comfort with others. Ridding his mind of Sasuke for the time being, Naruto picked up another water balloon with his left hand and began rotating the water inside the balloon with his chakra in one direction. He was aware his body naturally spun his chakra from right to left, so he didn't have a problem in maintaining the fluidity of the chakra flow inside the balloon. However, once again he sighed when he noticed only 3 or 4 pops on the balloon. Naruto-chan. Naruto heard his mother call out to him. Looking towards the patio where he believed he heard his mother's voice from, he was surprised to see Hinata standing along with his mother. It had been a little over 4 months since both had trained together. Naruto kept himself busy in his own training, which normally consisted of getting a better grasp of Futon, Suiton, Raiton and Doton chakra manipulation, Fuinjutsu or improving his Mokuton abilities. So with everything he had been doing, the thought of calling Hinata over or going to her house never crossed his mind during those times. Hinata-chan. Are you here to train with me? Naruto asked a bit timidly. Tsunade pushed Hinata a little towards her son and went inside the house so the kids could talk amongst themselves. She was aware at how the two had grown slightly distant in the past few months and it saddened her a little. However, she was optimistic that the two would be back to normal soon enough. It made her laugh a little. As to how oblivious her son was to Hinata's feelings. She doubted Hinata herself knew of them. "Hi, Naruto-kun." Hinata replied. Looking behind the blonde, she was confused as to what he was doing with several water balloons on the ground. When Naruto saw her look at the balloons behind him, he laughed a bit, seeing her confused face. He found it adorable. "Why are there so many balloons, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked, perplexed. "I'm learning a new jutsu, Hinata-chan. It's going to be totally awesome." Naruto replied enthusiastically. But hung his head down not even a second later, thinking about how slow he was progressing. "Do you need some help?" "I can help if you would like." Hinata asked gently. As Naruto nodded his head, both walked towards the tree Naruto sat under earlier. Upon showing the scroll to Hinata and explaining her what he was trying to master for a good 20 minutes, the Hyuga heiress was awestruck on hearing it. She was amazed that Naruto was learning one of the Yondaime Hokage's prize jutsu. She had heard great tales about the deceased Hokage from several of her clansmen and from many people within the village. "So, where are you having problems?" Hinata asked. "It's better if I show you," Naruto replied. Once again, he took a water balloon in his left hand and spun the water inside with his chakra in one direction. The result was the same as the previous times, only 3 to 4 pops in the balloon. "So, you see what happens. I am supposed to make the balloon burst completely. But all I get is a few pops here and there. It's been really annoying me," Naruto said frustratingly. Hinata giggled, seeing Naruto's face, and found her cheeks to be slightly redder than usual. Calming her blush down, she asked Naruto to do what he was doing again. This time, however, she wanted to see it with her Byakugan. Making the seal of confrontation, Hinata made her chakra flow to her eyes and activated her clan's jujitsu, indicated by the bulging veins around her eyes. So, when Naruto made the water inside the balloon spin with his chakra, Hinata noticed that the chakra peaked in certain areas inside the balloon and caused the balloon to burst open in those small areas only. "Did you notice anything, Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked eagerly. "Your chakra is making the water burst through the balloon in only certain areas. I think you need to make your chakra do that all over the surface of the balloon from the inside," Hinata replied, somewhat unsure of herself. Folding his hands over his chest, Naruto gained a thoughtful look on his face. He understood that spinning the water inside the balloon in only one direction made it pop in only a few places. That made him wonder, what if he made his chakra spin the water in different directions? Logically, if spinning in one direction would give a certain number of holes in the balloon, different directions would increase the number of holes in the balloon and eventually cause it to burst completely. Hinata was startled when 1 second Naruto was standing and thinking, and the next second he was a few centimeters away from her face. "You're the best, Hinata-chan," Naruto exclaimed happily. Hinata's cheeks became bright red on that remark, and she felt as if she was about to faint at their proximity, but willed herself to stay up in front of the blonde. It would be too embarrassing for her. Taking another balloon in his hand, Naruto concentrated to make his chakra spin the water inside the balloon in different directions at once. A smile came on his face when the balloon popped in more than 20 different places this time. Doing the same thing repeatedly for the next half an hour, Naruto smiled widely when he was finally able to make the water balloon burst completely, splashing the water on Hinata and him a little. "I did it!" Naruto yelled in joy. Hinata too had a smile on her face, glad that she could help her friend in learning something that was important to him. The blonde then tiredly sat down on the ground as the hours of exhaustion caught up to him. Despite Naruto's chakra having immense healing prowess, he too got tired after going over a single matter for hours. "You're already tired, Naruto-kun? I thought we were going to train," Hinata asked with a small smirk. She knew Naruto was genuinely tired, but the blonde always did say he had endless amounts of stamina. Also, a little playfulness never hurt anybody. "Huh? Who said I'm tired?" Naruto shot back, slightly embarrassed. "For days later, so, let's see if you really mastered the jutsu or not," Jiraiya said, looking over at the blonde. In the past few days, he had noticed the long hours Naruto spent in the back gardens of the Senju compound after the academy to master the jutsu. But he hadn't approached him even once. He wanted to see if the blonde could figure out the key details of learning the Rasengan on his own and proceed from there on. That was the main reason he hadn't given a detailed explanation of the steps involved in forming the Rasengan. "Just watch, Jiraiya-sensei," Naruto said calmly. Extending his right arm, Naruto concentrated his chakra in his palm. Slowly, violet chakra began swirling in the shape of a ball and started to grow larger until it was the size of a soccer ball. The violet chakra then became much denser and the power behind the jutsu was clearly felt, if the slight gust of wind around Naruto was any indication. Finally, the swirling ball of chakra calmed down and formed a perfect sphere. "See, I did it, Jiraiya-sensei," Naruto said proudly. After he had completed the first step of the jutsu with Hinata's help, every evening for the next few days, Naruto spent with Hinata and trained with her. The following step after bursting the water balloon was completed comfortably by Naruto, which was to burst a rubber ball. Already knowing the key fact behind bursting a balloon, Naruto understood to burst a rubber ball which had a harder shell compared to a balloon, he would need more power and denser chakra. And in Blonde's case, his chakra was naturally much denser compared to normal shinobi. The third step, however, took slightly longer for Naruto to complete, where he had to contain the rotation and the power of his chakra in a shell. But, with hours of practice, dedication and Hinata's help, he had mastered the third step and was finally able to make a perfect Rasengan in his hand. Jiraiya looked at his godson with pride evident in his eyes. He knew Naruto wasn't a natural-born genius. He was the kind of person who worked on something until they got it right. And he was proud of that attitude which Naruto possessed. The blonde did indeed work hard, extremely hard, to get to the point where he is. There are times he did feel sad to see a young boy possessing such battle prowess. Due to the certain circumstances in his life, Naruto would always have to be prudent and strong enough to fend off those who come after his life. That's good, Naruto. Now, let's see how it fares against my Rasengan, Jiraiya said with a smirk. A second later, a Rasengan was formed in the Toad Sannin's left hand, roughly the same size as that of Naruto's. The master and student stood opposite to each other with a look of complete seriousness on their faces. They both were currently standing in a forested area, a couple hundred meters behind the Yandame's face on the Hokage monument. Apparently, Naruto found it fitting that he showed Jiraiya the Rasengan at a place where he could feel closer to the Yandame Hokage. With an unsaid call to start the battle of the strength between the two Rasengan, both ran at each other with impeccable speed. Rasengan yelled both and the violet ball of chakra met the blue-colored ball of chakra in an impressive show of power. A large gust of wind blew past in the area when the two jutsu collided. Both Rasengans seemed to be almost equal in strength when suddenly both Jiraiya and Naruto were pushed back in the somewhat large explosion that took place, covering the area in a blanket of smoke. Naruto promptly got up from the ground and went through a few hand seals. "Futon, Detapa," said the blonde as he blew a powerful wind from his mouth to clear the smoke away from the area. He saw Jiraiya sitting on the ground a few meters away and walked up to him. "Are you okay, Jiraiya-sensei?" Naruto asked. "You're still too young to injure the great toad sage Jiraiya, kid," Jiraiya joked as he got up from the ground. Dusting his clothing of the minor dust that was there, he ruffled Naruto's hair with a genuine smile on his face. "That was great, Naruto. Looks like you got it down." "Arigato, Aji-chan," Naruto replied gratefully. "Do you want to go sit on top of Yandame's head and watch the sunset?" Jiraiya asked. He was aware that was Naruto's favorite spot within the whole village and couldn't help but see the irony in it, the son finding comfort with his father. After a few minutes' walk, Jiraiya and Naruto sat atop the Yandame Hokage's head at the edge. The village from up here looked so scenic. It was truly majestic. The green shade of the trees, the white, red and brown shades of the buildings, the reddish and orange hue of the sky, all of it came alive together in the eyes of two sitting there. "Aji-chan," Naruto asked slowly. "What is it, Naruto?" Jiraiya felt the hesitance in Naruto's mind and wondered what made him feel that way suddenly. "Will you tell me about your friend, Orochimaru?"